They threw my kids' bags out on the street like they were garbage, while smiling at my brother's son, calling him their real heir. I stood frozen, my heart burning as my little ones cried, asking me why their grandparents didn't love them. My parents didn't even look ashamed. They said straight to my face, "Miranda, your children will never bring honor to this family. Only your brother's boy deserves everything." Before I continue, make sure to hit subscribe and share this story, because what happens next will leave you speechless. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I swallowed my pain, knowing one thing they could never imagine. I wasn't the broken single mother they thought I was. For years, while they mocked me for being unsuccessful, I had been quietly building something massive, something that would one day crush their arrogance. And standing there, watching them shove my children away, I made a promise. When the truth comes out, they will regret every single word. The very next morning, I packed up my children's clothes and moved us into a small rented apartment far from their mansion. It wasn't easy. My kids asked me again and again, "Mama, why can't we live with Nana and Grandpa? Why don't they want us?" Each question stabbed me in the chest, but I couldn't let them see me break. Instead, I told them the truth, gently. Sometimes people forget how to love, but that doesn't mean we stop being worthy of it. What my parents never knew was that while they showered wealth and affection on my brother's son, I had been pouring my heart into building a company from scratch. Nights after putting my kids to sleep, I would stay awake until dawn, studying business strategies, making calls, sending emails, securing deals, step by step turning an idea into an empire. And while my parents were busy flaunting my brother's boy as the future of the family, my children were watching me. They saw me grind. They saw me fail and try again. They saw me build resilience. I didn't realize it then, but I was raising them to become stronger than I had ever been. Months passed. My company grew. What started as a tiny project in my bedroom expanded into offices across the city. Journalists began to write about me. Investors wanted to meet me. And suddenly, my name was appearing in places my family could never ignore. One day, my brother came to me, desperate. The business my parents had handed to him was collapsing. He stood at my office door, ashamed, asking for help. For a second, I saw the boy who had once been my playmate. But then I remembered the way my children had been humiliated, and my jaw tightened. I told him calmly, "The difference between us is that everything I built with nothing but pain, sacrifice, and hard work. What you were given, you wasted. That's the reason you're here now, and the reason I won't save you." His face fell, and in that moment, I knew. The tables had turned. The very next morning, I packed our bags and took my kids out of that house where love was measured only in wealth. We shifted into a small apartment, 4 walls with peeling paint, but filled with peace. For the first time in years, I felt free. My children slept on a thin mattress, but they slept without tears. And that, to me, was priceless. But the pain never left me. Every time I tucked them in, their little voices echoed in my mind. "Mama, why don't Nana and Grandpa love us? Why are we not good enough?" Those words cut deeper than any blade, yet I forced myself to smile in front of them. Because I knew, if I broke, they would break too. What my parents didn't know was that while they were busy praising my brother's son as the future heir, I was working silently, relentlessly, building something they could never imagine. Every night, after my kids fell asleep, I turned our tiny living room into an office. A cracked laptop, a notebook filled with ideas, and endless determination. That was my empire in the making. I studied business strategies, reached out to clients, wrote proposals, and worked until my eyes burned. Many nights I cried silently while typing, but I never stopped. My children would wake up at 3 a.m. and see me still working. Sometimes they would crawl into my lap and say, "Mama, one day, you will be the boss of everything." Those words became my fuel. Slowly, my efforts bore fruit. My small business landed its first big contract, then another. Soon, clients were recommending me everywhere. What began in a tiny room grew into a registered company with employees who believed in me more than my own parents ever did. Months later, media outlets started writing about me. The single mother who built an empire from nothing. My story went viral. Investors wanted meetings. Opportunities came knocking. Suddenly, my name was being spoken in circles my family had always worshipped to belong in. And then came the irony. My brother, the golden son, the one who had everything handed to him, was drowning. The business empire my parents had proudly given him was collapsing. Bad investments, poor decisions, and his arrogance had left it in ruins. One evening, as I sat in my glass office overlooking the city, my secretary informed me that my brother was here to see me. For a moment, my heart tightened. Memories of childhood came rushing back, the laughter we once shared, the bond we once had. But then, I remembered that night, the night my children were thrown out like garbage. He stood in front of me, no longer the confident heir, but a desperate man. With tears in his eyes, he said softly, "Miranda, I need your help. Please, save me." I looked at him, my own brother, the one my parents chose over me. And I realized something. Life had come full circle. I leaned back in my chair and answered, my voice calm but firm. "Everything you see around me, I built from nothing. While you wasted everything, you were given. This empire is mine and I owe you nothing. Now you'll understand what it feels like to be abandoned when you need someone the most." His face went pale. In that silence, I saw regret flood his eyes. And for the first time in years, I felt powerful. Not because I had crushed him, but because I had finally proven to myself and to the world that I was never the weak one. A few weeks later, an exclusive business conference was held in the city, a place where only top entrepreneurs, investors, and industry leaders were invited. I received a special invitation as the keynote speaker. It was a moment I had dreamt of silently while working in the dark. And now it was real. The night of the event, I walked into the grand hall, wearing a simple black dress. Cameras flashed, journalists whispered my name, and I could feel every eye turning toward me. But the biggest shock wasn't the crowd. It was seeing my parents sitting in the front row right beside my brother. They hadn't come for me. They had been invited as special guests because of their last name, still clinging to the remnants of respect in society. My mother's eyes widened when she saw me standing on stage. My father's jaw tightened. My brother looked down, shame written all over his face. When my name was announced, the hall erupted in applause. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our keynote speaker, the founder and CEO of one of the fastest-growing companies in the country, Miranda Wilson." As I took the stage, I could feel their disbelief burning into me. But this wasn't the time for bitterness. This was the moment I had been waiting for all my life. I began my speech. Success is not about what you inherit. It's about what you build. I wasn't given millions. I wasn't given support. I wasn't even given love. I was told I was worthless. But I chose to prove that no rejection can define you unless you allow it to. The audience clapped, inspired. But my eyes were locked on my parents. I continued. For years, I watched others be celebrated while I was ignored. For years, I was told I had no value. But today, standing before you, I want to tell every single person who has ever felt unwanted. Your worth is not decided by others. It's decided by what you believe and what you build." The hall roared with applause, and in that thunder, I saw my parents shrink in their seats. My mother's eyes glistened with unshed tears. My father's pride cracked into silence, and my brother couldn't even look at me. When I stepped off the stage, journalists swarmed me. Cameras followed. Investors congratulated me. Meanwhile, my family sat in the corner, invisible in the very world they once thought belonged only to them. For the first time, the tables had turned. They were the outsiders, and I was the name that mattered. That night, as I left the hall with my children by my side, my daughter whispered, "Mama, you were shining like a queen." And for the first time, I believed it too. The night after the conference, I thought it was all over. But destiny had one more twist left. A few days later, my office receptionist walked in nervously and said, "Ma'am, your parents are here to see you." For a moment, my heart froze. I didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or turn them away. But I nodded and told her to let them in. When they walked into my office, they didn't carry the same arrogance I had grown up with. Their heads were bowed, their eyes heavy with shame. My father spoke first, his voice trembling. "We were wrong. We chose pride and favoritism over love. We didn't see your worth until the world forced us to. And now, all we ask for is forgiveness." My mother added softly, with tears streaming down her face, "You were the daughter we should have celebrated from the start. We only realized too late what we had lost. For years I had dreamt of this moment, of them begging for the love they had once denied me. But standing there, I felt no anger left inside me. Only clarity. I looked at them and said, "I don't hate you. In fact, I thank you. Because your rejection gave me the fire to build everything I have today. But forgiveness doesn't mean going back to the past. I have built my own family, my own empire, and my own peace. And that is enough for me." Their faces fell, but they nodded, knowing they no longer had the power to control me. They left quietly, and as the door closed behind them, I felt something lift off my shoulders. A lifetime of pain finally set free. That night, I sat with my children on the balcony of our new home, overlooking the city skyline that I had conquered on my own. My son leaned against me and whispered, "Mama, we don't need anyone else. We have you." And in that moment, I smiled through my tears. Because he was right. I didn't just build a company. I built a life. I built strength. And most importantly, I built a legacy that no one could ever take away. The little girl who once craved love had finally become the woman who needed no one's approval. As my parents walked out of my office for the last time, I realized something important. Closure doesn't come when people apologize. It comes when you stop needing their approval. I chose not to look back. My life was no longer about chasing their acceptance. It was about living with the love I had built for myself and my children. That evening, I stood by the window of my high-rise office, the city lights sparkling below me. For the first time, I didn't feel like the unwanted daughter. I felt like a woman who had rewritten her story. The girl they once ignored had become the woman the world admired. And with that, my story wasn't about pain anymore. It was about power, resilience, and freedom. Because in the end, true victory is not proving others wrong. It's proving yourself right.